I bought one of those Glade plugins the other day. Oh God, that's too much. That's so gross.
What a prayer.
That's we're talking about that sweet trash smell like you were just talking about. That's what that Glade. Vanilla papaya.
Oh no.
I'm so mad that I bought that.
Vanilla anything is a mistake.
Well, just I was intrigued by the papaya part, and I didn't really think to myself that literally was going to smell like sweet trash. Like literally.
That's like the alley behind a Thai takeout. Yep.
Hey, Victoria.
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
You know what I could use right now?
I have no idea.
A breath of fresh movie.
Oh yeah.
That's a movie I like to see.
Community service of Santa Monica College and NPR for Southern California.
This is a breath of fresh movie, a podcast where we watch movies. Specifically ones we've never seen before. And the we in that sentence is Chelsea, who's sitting
I'm
across
Chelsea
from
Pope.
Me. Yep. And I'm Victoria Harley.
There you go.
Yeah. Today's episode was the 1980 Western, The Long Riders, directed by Walter Hill, who we'll talk about.
Yeah. That's because that's what this episode is. Like,
yeah.
So
this is a Western that follows the story of the James Younger gang who are riding around Missouri post-Civil War, robbing banks and trains. And that's pretty much the story. And it's actually very historically accurate, as I found out. Like, very historically accurate. To the point, where maybe it's like a little boring.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, not to be a dick.
The added context of that it was that historically accurate. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, like that
doesn't happen as much these days.
I'm like, oh, that's pretty interesting events.
The only things that were different were just tiny, like, oh, they were already the Pinkertons were already looking for them at this point. And it's small details of timing. Like,
sure.
Most of it was pretty faithful. So I caution people to like get their history from movies, but we fucking do it. So this is a good one.
Yeah,
this is one that gets a good check mark. But I mean, first impressions. What did you think of it? What did you like?
It was. I'll be honest. I thought it was going to be something different.
Okay.
And I had to kind of like adjust for it.
What did you think it was going to be?
Well, we saw the trailer before.
It's true.
Or in between the double feature of the Pedro Almodovar night at the New Beverly. And,
it was fun.
That trailer right away just immediately gave me like big camp vibes. Yeah. I didn't think this was going to be a comedy. I definitely thought this was a movie that was taking itself seriously. Yeah. But I also got the impression that maybe it was going to be a little bit, I don't know, just campier, a little cornier, a little more like earnest in its,
I could see that.
A little more of the vibes of like Tombstone. Like there's a cheeky self-awareness in Tombstone where I feel like they kind of like they know they're being kind of silly and indulgent sometimes.
Cheeky was the word that was like in my head this whole time. I was that trailer definitely felt cheeky.
Like it had a little bit of maybe not even intentionally, but I did think that it was going to be a little, I don't know, a little bit like corny in the right way.
I know what you're saying.
Because there was some there was a couple, the way it was cut together, it felt kind of corny.
Yeah.
It was like kind of like comical, just how the onslaught of gunshot kept breaking through these very sort of like Carradines. Why I'd love to. Pew, 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 pew.
I'm here for your sons. Like, what do you want?
What do you want with my son?
Robbing banks and trains.
Yeah, it's all very like expository. Like it felt like a parody of a Western because it was so on the nose.
And like that reporter asking like, what do you think the chances are you of bringing them in? He's like, that's an incredibly stupid question.
Exactly. And then exactly. It's like, I'm going to write a book about
make
me
myself even more famous.
Make myself even, I'm like, these are just, there is some very on the nose dialogue throughout this movie.
That trailer editor really picked some choice shit. And like
it definitely set a different tone.
It communicated a vibe. Yeah. And I did read somewhere in my research that the trailers were emphasizing much more of the aspect, something we haven't mentioned yet, which is that this movie is cast with brothers playing brothers.
Right. Oh, yeah. See, that was another thing, too, which I laughed at in the theater. I'm like, oh, look, it's like a nepotism movie.
Yeah, we were like, nepotism rides again.
Yes. No, but it's like, like that is a cool novelty thing I was interested in seeing. And then also Christopher Guest was like, oh, okay.
I know.
There's like certain names in that cluster.
So, like,
that were
here, let's give you a rundown of the cast because it's quite large. And we're just going to talk about the gangs. There are a few actresses in here, but they have some minor... They're barely involved and whatever.
Yeah.
I don't need to hold whatever. Doesn't matter.
I don't know. I really liked the whore.
Bellstar.
She had a lot. I wanted more of her. I was like, oh, finally, like a dynamic, emotional character.
Pamela Reed was the actress who played her.
Yeah.
And you may remember her because she plays Leslie Knope's mother in Parks and Recreation.
There we go. I was like, this lady, I've definitely seen her elsewhere.
And she's definitely done a lot of other things. But that was my first okay, that's
she was easily my favorite part of the film.
No, great. They definitely. I would have loved to have seen a bigger exploration of Bellstar and all of that. That definitely felt shortchanged.
It was weird because it felt like they put too much time in that relationship in the movie, and also not enough at the same time.
I agree. Yeah,
because it
kind of went nowhere.
Yes,
it was weird.
Like there was no tangible resolution to that relationship. But it was also a thing that's like because there was sexual tension there, and they're two attractive people.
Yeah.
Is this love story gonna be a fairly like prominent B plot of this film? Like in Tombstone, there's I think a couple of them, and like that's a driving factor that it heightens the stakes too a little bit. It's not just like we're a bunch of brothers. It's like I don't know.
No, I hear you. I'm with you.
There's romance. I want my romance. Yeah. You don't always have to have romance in a Western, of course.
No. And what's funny is in one of the descriptions of this movie I saw, they called it a Midwestern because it's really, it was actually filmed in Georgia, but it was set in the Missouri. That's where all of this is going on. And it's not quite West. It's sort of like all this chaos is happening around like established civilization.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of relationship. It's a little more... more of like a guerrilla kind of experience, which actually transitions kind of nicely to like a historical note, which is not covered by the movie but is contextually important. Most of the people who rode in the James Younger gang also rode during the Civil War with the Southern guerrillas, specifically William Quantrill and Bloody Bill Anderson. And they led a raid on Lawrence, Kansas, where they killed like 185 people. It led to something called General Order Number 11. And that was like the section of Missouri that bordered Kansas was completely depopulated as like a way of eliminating their support network. After the Civil War, they were kind of marked on top of the fact that they were in the Confederacy and the losing side. Yeah. They were also part of this like very, very rough and tumble group. So they were kind of marked even more, than your average like Southerner, I guess.
Sure.
And then those people were really unable to get their lives restarted after that depopulation happened. And so like a bunch of displaced people, and they couldn't get a loan because most of the banks were owned by the people from the North. So there was all this hostility. And so it was a combination of like, this kind of like Southern pride shit, which we do see on display, like in that scene where the musician's singing like a freedom song. He almost gets his ass kicked. Yeah. The point is, this whole thing is going on. There's a whole enshrining of the Confederacy going on that is not so much openly celebrated in the movie, but it does come up. Yeah. And anyway, these people basically turned to bank robbing and violence kind of as maybe not a last resort, but as a resort.
Would you say they sort of, that the movie is like a tad romanticizing of,
absolutely,
like a Gone with the Wind sort of way, like it's sort of captured, it's trying to empathize with people who perceive this as a bygone
we definitely we idolize outlaws. We're fascinated by people because it's this flirtation with freedom.
They're like such the ultimate American figure. We talked about that with the Paris, Texas episode, how just cornerstone iconic that is.
No, totally. Just for historical note, the James Younger gang robbed 12 banks, 5 stagecoaches, 5 trains, and I love this, the 1872 Kansas City Exposition ticket booth. Like they just like wrote in and took all the ticket sales, I guess. I mean, the door is the most profitable part. So, that was smart. They did kill, though, dozens and dozens of people. So in no way are these, it's a mixed bag here. This is a dark gray area, I would say.
No, sure.
Dark gray. Again, most of the film is pretty accurate. And the tension between them and the Pinkerton Detective Agency, it leads to all these people in the area more siding with their like southern cousins as opposed to like this northern group. And the Pinkertons are kind of like one of the like worst groups in American history. It was like a private security and detective agency that largely you learn about in school in relation to like unionization. And like they were people who intimidated workers and infiltrated unions and factories to stop unionization and like not good people. They're the ones who happen to be like kind of brought in to deal with them. So they're already it's a very hateable institution. So of course, the film is positioning us to empathize from the first scene with these people.
I mean, but that is something that is important to note, because that's going to, I think that affects like what you can realistically do with the story and the tone and like entertain, I don't know. I feel like in a way it's kind of confining sometimes if you're not like really taking enough of a critical perspective in a story of like, just show more flaws. I mean,
it's important. I just think it's important to note, like, again, the context of like, okay, why are these people, I mean, you can watch it and not know the specifics. You could just sort of be like, right, okay, southern person upset, that they lost the war. You could generalize about that. But there's a little bit more nuance here. There's a little bit more going on than that. That's all.
Yeah. No, it's and that's good to, let's lean into that. Like, let's see more tension with all, like, let's just see more
and I think
happen from that.
I think the movie, so the director really wanted it to, even though there's kind of this gimmick of like, we're going to have all these brothers. He really didn't want to lean into the gimmick, in a way that was like,
it seems like it was more of a marketing thing than it really was actually like integral to the film.
I think after the fact, yes. The actual origin of like, why are all these brothers in there really begins with James and Stacy Keach, who play Jesse. Well, James Keach plays Jesse James. Stacy Keach plays Frank James. But Stacy Keach and James Keach both were in a TV movie about the Wright brothers together. And so they played brothers then. And that was like sometime in the 70s. And I think Stacy Keach got this idea that like, let's do that again. Let's find another thing. And started developing a story all about Jesse James. And, it would be like Frank and Jesse James. And, and they actually like wrote a sort of stage play version of this thing that they performed in schools around New Jersey. Like,
it's like a real passion project.
And apparently that historically accurate, that like schools are like, okay, this is that. I mean, that's the sort of shit we would have had come through our school.
Sure.
Like, absolutely.
That could have been fun to watch.
I would have watched that shit. Are you kidding?
Yeah, why not?
Come on, Stacy Keach, who is today, like, I mean, he played like a lot of different detectives and stuff like in his career, that actor. So it's just like kind of funny. Anyway, they worked it out. Then they adapted it into like a musical. Yeah. Which, oh my God.
What?
Yeah, it's good that they didn't. It was a country musical called The Bandit Kings, and it was like an off-Broadway thing. Then they adapted it into a screenplay, thank God. And James Keach was in a movie with Robert Carradine. They were making a movie, The Hatfield McCoys, and Robert Carradine was like, hey, me and my brothers could play the youngers. And so, of course, Robert Carradine referring to David Carradine and Keith Carradine.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got our James brothers, and then we get the youngers. And then, I don't know, at that point, you're rolling on this idea.
Sure. So and I get like how that can work when you have like you're playing siblings and you are siblings in real life. That chemistry is natural and blah, blah, blah.
And again, the director really wanted like a family feel to it. I mean, he's not kind of in the picture just yet, but this whole thing, it all came together. It was going to be like a mini series on NBC, and then that like the money.
It does have a miniseries vibe.
Doesn't it?
I feel like this would have been more palatable as a miniseries for me.
It really might have been.
It has tonally, it feels way more.
It also would have been
on that
6
level.
hours instead of like an hour 40 or whatever this was.
Sure.
So I think some stuff got cut, of course.
Yeah.
I am at maybe there would have been more stuff about Belle Starr and the relationship between the brothers, because I was really impressed initially when I was watching this, because I was like, oh, wow, they're really not leaning on exposition.
Yeah.
Like you really had to kind of like it took me a while to get all the names.
Sure.
You know? Like,
yeah. No, saying it did feel like you were just getting kind of like dropped into that world.
Exactly.
But then there was all the space of that too.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
if you're into it, like I want to say, you know, this is well made, but it's like
you almost
I
need
think
to know the story of Jesse James and the
Yeah.
Youngers to get all of it.
sure.
I mean, not like that I even do. I'm just saying, like, it kind of feels like someone who's a super fan for that shit would be like,
really think this is great, but if you're someone like me and whatever, that you're like, I have maybe a
lovely person.
I've heard the name Jesse James. You know, I kept thinking about that song. I was like, I'm the one who shot Jesse James.
oh,
Hey.
yeah. Well, it's funny. There are like a number of songs about like I shot Jesse James, like
Yeah.
that line that's spoke.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of it, but the point is like there's a lot of cultural mythology around Jesse James. There've been multiple movies around this story.
Sure.
There was one with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, the one the blah 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 coward.
The blah blah blah, blah yeah,
blah blah blah
like
coward
by the
movie.
coward Robert Ford.
Yeah, there you go.
So the rest of the cast, we only got through the Carradines. So we've got Randy and Dennis Quaid playing Clell and Ed Miller. Clell, such a great Western name. Also, I just gotta say, can we agree Randy is the superior Quaid?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Dennis Quaid sucks. I'm sorry, but like Randy Quaid is a much better actor, and he's like way more.
Argue.
He's like way more interesting to watch. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm not arguing. I
want to make it clear.
I didn't develop as strong of an opinion, to be quite honest, about either. But that's not to say that you are not valid.
It's not totally based on this movie. I also just like went and saw Christmas Vacation again, like in the theater, and it's like I'm just like, God damn it, he took the house. Like the biggest laughs were for him. Reflecting on like, man, he's actually been in a lot of different stuff, and he can do more, I think, than just be like a sick weirdo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then finally we've got Christopher and Nicholas Guest as Charlie and Robert Ford. And I love the Guest brothers. I think like if I'm gonna objectify this movie, they're the best looking brothers, even though they're creepy as hell. You can disagree. I don't care.
No, I know, but I lit up. I was like, oh, Christopher Guest.
I was like, oh, there he is. Yeah. Okay. I've told you this before, but yeah, like I definitely developed a crush on him as a kid.
Yeah.
Mostly, I think because I thought Spinal Tap was a really funny movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just it was just a funny, you know.
It's like charisma. I think that's the other thing too, is seeing specifically Christopher Guest's name, I was like, oh, this is a movie that's gonna have a little charisma behind it.
And they were like, I mean, no matter, they made a choice in that performance and they went with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no, I don't want to say that they themselves did not bring charisma. That implied that like, I thought he was going to be charismatic and he was boring. No. It's like, no, that it just didn't quite carry.
They oozed sleaze, but that was about it. I have a few reviews here.
Yeah.
One from Newsweek, I thought this was pretty spot on. It said more reenacted than acted.
Yeah, I think that's very fair.
That's pretty terse and fair.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but like,
I don't be.
Because there's just no dramatic tension. It felt like it was like, this is just a historical. It really was like a History Channel retelling.
And I gotta say also, like James Keach as Jesse James, like he just did not emote.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah, it was really hard to
nothing.
It was really hard to
They gave him a beard, and it was,
like I said, the whole reason I vibed with the whore.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, again,
right,
calling her spot on dialect, because you're a whore.
Because you're a whore.
Because you're.
But that's why I love you.
But that's why. Oh, you know, he goes, but that's why I like you.
Well,
and then does like a kiss on her head or whatever.
Gross.
And then that whole thing when she can't go, she's like, how come I wasn't invited? And he's like, because you're a whore. Like, he just says it, because you're a whore.
He's such an
At least I'm not cheap whore.
I know.
My God, they're haggling over her price in that very first scene when she's like, he's like, you still charge 16? She's like, yes. And he's like, oh, ain't nothing worth that. Like,
yeah.
And then he haggles her down. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, it's a weird relationship.
I'm not saying that can't work. It's like, I mean, yeah, I was like, if anything, I was intrigued by that more than honestly anything else in the film, just because it had the most, like, there was the most emotional exchange. But it was, I mean, a lot of it's just coming from her, like, really having an attitude and really leaning into
and
it.
It's not as if there are no women in this movie, but their role is very much them, like, coming to terms with the men in their lives and the choices the men make, as you know. And she seemed the most in control of her own agency, though, of all the women.
Yeah,
the others were kind of like
certainly
left
had
behind.
an opinion about her situation.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I think
she wasn't shy.
No, I know she was. Yeah, she was one of those juicy, complicated characters actresses like to play.
Like it's maybe like a Hollywood necessity for westerns. Like you got to have like one dame in like one of those saloon dresses. Like,
yeah, you have to have one like saloon girl. At least.
No room can turn a tone faster than a barroom saloon like a western where like someone is shot dead and then it's like, all right, pick up the pace, boys.
I know, literally right after that whole knife fight scene, and then I was like, how are they gonna do that trope, you know? And then it was literally just one guy going, yeah. And then there's someone that's like you don't even see them. They're somewhere off camera, and that's why I'm like, that's a funny idea. I wonder if someone already has done like a video that's like that person who like starts the saloon back up after a big brawl. Yeah.
I mean, but you know what? Like you play like, I mean, if you were an entertainer at like a big Vegas room or nightclub and somebody was acting up, like they would definitely like drown you out with shit or like move things along to like communicate to the audience. They are not the focus of this. Like, but
what's that? Not like that Travis Scott situation. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have brought that up.
No,
but
it's okay.
But yeah, times have changed. Times have changed.
They really have.
You can't do that. You shouldn't.
I want all the clothes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Ladies, cool costumes.
And men's. Like
men's. I know it was
long
well costumed.
And that was very accurate. It was a well costumed. Like that. The director is really into westerns. Like he directs everything like a western, and this was his first chance to actually do a western. Yeah, which is fun for him. But he pointed out. I wrote down like the word morality and just how like everything is so heightened in these situations where they're like, you don't have the law or the other sort of social controls, you know, to deal with somebody. You kind of just have to deal with them on your own. Yeah. And like, wow, it's like, it makes every interaction full of tension. Right. And what I loved about this, it doesn't happen so much later, but at the beginning, what I really liked was how there were a lot of gun shots that surprised me. Actually, was like, you know, I actually gasped a little bit, and I really liked that because that felt realistic to me in the way that like they didn't do that film thing where they pushed the tension and like, oh come on, he would have shot him by now. He would have just shot him. In this movie, they're like, no, they just shoot him. Like there's no, until we get to that like big scene at the end, then it's like all Sam Peckinpah and slowed down. And they really make a meal of it. Right. But up to that point, it's like the violence is so immediate, and it's like your reaction to the immediacy that is the effect rather than the tension. Sure. And I like that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's sort of like the anti-Tarantino in that sense.
A little bit, yeah. It's just a different way to play it. I didn't consider how like when that,
maybe it's very Tarantino.
Well, when they were all holed up in that barn, and the farmer that's covering for them and keeping them hidden in said barn, like steps out of the barn and then like just he looks up, and we don't even see what he sees. We just like boom, like just shot in the chest, because like it would happen that fast. Like, and like we get to experience not even registering the people around him until after the shot has been fired. Sure. Because I feel like that's the shock, right? That's how it would be.
That is actually very Tarantino now that I think about it.
Well, I'll just cut that right out.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine.
There was like a whole like thing with the mortician and the bodies. There was like a weird little, I thought it was going to happen 3 times, and it happened, I think, twice. But like the mortician always had like kind of a wise thing to say about like whatever dead people were on his table. Yeah. And they were always like doubled up. Like,
yeah, that was
like there wasn't a second table.
That was a weird thing. Again, I'm like, is this movie gonna
explain any of this?
Is this I don't know, like, are we gonna have more fun? Are we gonna have more
There were lots of blood chunks.
I don't know. I guess it was just, It just wasn't Tombstone.
It wasn't Tombstone.
It just wasn't Tombstone. I'm sorry.
And
Some people probably think this one's way better, but
no. You're allowed to like Tombstone better. I don't. I think I was misled because early on, well, not super early, but there's a scene where they're robbing a train, and Robert Carradine, who I can't remember if I think he's Bob Younger, but they're like the conductors. He's like holding them up with a gun. They're like, "What are you aiming to do?" And he's like, "I ain't aiming to do nothing. I'm doing it." It's just like this really sassy moment.
yeah.
But I had to pause.
It's just very straightforward, like lines like that. This whole, just like that one where it's like, "I want your sons. What you want my sons for?" For robbing banks.
Robbing banks and trains.
There you go.
Yeah. You boys did an excellent job of making heroes out of every one of those men. Like,
so like it's like campy, but it's like I like more.
I know. And it started really good and like really interesting elements, but then it kind of lost me because there was just this one scene that Frank James on the wagon with his lady.
Yeah.
And it was just straight up exposition. It was just explaining where everyone went.
Stuff. Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like,
it's a lot of people sitting and talking. It's like there's so much of that shit. I'm like, I just.
Even the like scene where Jesse James is finally killed had no tension.
It was just
so weird.
All it was just I'm the one who shot Jesse James.
Yeah, I shot Jesse
James, and like right before he turns his back, and then like
boom.
Yeah, and it's like that's it was. Yeah, you're right. It was a very like do you think that was a choice? Like maybe because it was not just about him.
I don't know.
Maybe they didn't want to. I don't know. I did like that scene where like then his brother turns himself in and he's like,
yeah.
What if I don't need to be your brother? I'll kill you.
That's always what you can say to somebody.
I liked it was a very straight. Again, there were like moments where like the straightforwardness of the script was like
very
fun,
nice.
But like
it wanted to have fun. It like started to like prance a little bit, but then it couldn't get up the inertia.
Yeah,
there wasn't enough inertia.
I wish this had been more fun because like you're making this movie in part because like especially with the romanticizing that's already happening. Yeah, it's like just make a bigger swing. You're already romanticizing it. You're already making this film in reverence. Like,
no, I hear you.
I don't know.
No, I totally get it.
I don't know. Maybe it's like maybe it would need to be more self-effacing to make those kinds of bigger swings. Maybe it would need to be able to make fun of itself to do that.
I mean, like I agree. Like there was that scene. You brought it up earlier, but the scene with Belle's, like the knife fight. And I was like, when I was watching it, I'm like, this is so homoerotic.
Yeah.
Like the whole, they're like biting down. Was it her stocking?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah,
like,
the guy's biting on
and they've got two huge knives and it's like knife fight,
both are,
hand to hand. Like, and it was so, and I'm not even like, I'm not mad about it. It's just that I'm like, man, like,
no, this doesn't make any sense.
Like, does no one see? I don't know. The strap, that's what got me. That keeps them in proximity and they're biting on it. Like, I don't. Yeah. And that guy who played Sam Starr, I guess was James Remar. He was Dexter's dad in Dexter, and he was in Sex and the City as like, I can't remember the guy's name. I think it was Richard. I don't know. It was some guy that Samantha was with, but
yes,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Didn't recognize him, but
I
definitely that was him.
I definitely didn't recognize him.
But that's also like
there's some years in between those two projects, though.
There's quite a few. Quite a few. But yeah, anyway, I just wanted a little James Remar sighting. Yeah, I mean the director's he was interested in westerns and the sort of like problems that they pose. He's from Long Beach, California, and he pretty much worked his way through college. He, for a while, thought about being a comic book illustrator, and he actually went and studied for a bit at the Universidad de las Americas in Mexico City, which apparently was like the cheapest place you could get away, know, which I think is interesting. But he ended up transferring to Michigan State University, where he majored in history. I guess he had asthma as a child, so when the draft came about for him in the 46, he was deferred, which meant he had to kind of go get a job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he went to Los Angeles and he began researching documentaries because he had this history background. For a while, he worked in the mailroom at Universal because people told him it'd be a good way to meet people.
Yeah.
And they entered the DGA training program, worked as an apprentice on a bunch of TV shows like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Wild Wild West. Seems like a dream for someone who loves Westerns.
Oh, yeah. So he definitely knows
He
the
knows his
genre.
shit. Yeah,
Like,
he's
he
obsessed.
knows.
Yeah. And
he's-
kudos. Like I do love a director that kind of just makes a movie about the same thing every time.
Sure.
Like I get that obsession. Like that
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
like, if you know what you like, you know what you like.
Oh yeah,
Good for you.
I get it. You can make a movie about the same thing. Your entire life. I can see it. He worked his way up as like an assistant director. I mean, this sounds very like this is a very difficult road today. It's like it makes me frustrated to read it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
these biographies can be tough because
They're
you're
tough.
just like, man, it doesn't work like that.
Well, and
now.
it's also
or
like
it can.
I'm
but,
trusting that all this is true, but it's like I mean there was this detail. They were like he was writing screenplays, on the weekends and at night. It's like you're an assistant director. You work a 12-hour day. Bullshit. Like you were not writing that shit at night. Like I mean, maybe it was different back then, but. It probably was different back then, actually. What am I saying? But
that's the thing that we're mad about is it was different.
well, it's just all it is that I'm receiving a bio that somebody's put together, and they wanted to make that part clear. This guy
hustled.
He hustled, and so anyway, a producer finally gave him a shot in 1975, and he directed the film Hard Times. He followed that up with The Driver. I wrote down a bunch of movies that he's done. I misplaced it, but I didn't know any of them. So I'm not saying we need to watch them, but I'm just gonna admit this is a big hole. I had to look up a lot of this stuff. I don't know. I'm not familiar.
I would be interested. I mean, my criticisms of this film aside, which are just personal opinions.
Yeah.
I would totally be down to check out more of his work.
Well, I mean, it's out there. Walter Hill. So boy, this movie.
Yeah.
I was intrigued by the brothers thing as a gimmick for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, just the trailer, it's like silly little moments. It felt like it was like, oh, these are all the stock scenes in every Western.
It really felt
there's the saloon, there's the hoedown, there's the shootout, and there's the high noon, there's
train robbery.
The train,
It really does check all those boxes.
It checks all the boxes of all the scenes you have to have in a Western, and so again, it's like, oh, this is going to be campy, but no, like, I guess I think... Yeah, I want I hear you. I want a little more pizzazz.
More pizzazz. More
pizzazz.
Just a little more sass. A little more fun.
A little more pow.
A little more color. Yeah, it was. I think the accuracy part of it is
super commendable.
It's commendable, but maybe that's not always the most important thing in a movie,
I don't know. I mean, on one hand, it's like, when they change it, when they say like a movie, like a horror movie or something, they're like based on a true story. You're like, okay, well, but it is actually like kind of cool and interesting. But that's the thing is, I think there's something to be said here. Like, like if you were to watch like an actually historically accurate movie version of like one of those based on a true story things, that would probably be boring.
I mean, it's hard to say because like one show I enjoy a lot is The Great. And what I admire about the show is the way that they position it just in the titles where it's like The Great and there's a little asterisk and it says an occasionally true story. And that's such a smart way of like, we're not trying to faithfully recreate history here. Yeah, we've decided these are the broad strokes, and we're going to fill in all the fun in between, and we're going to make characters, and
we're going to have it. It's going to be a piece of entertainment.
Exactly,
and we're self-aware.
Exactly, we know. We're calling it out from the very top.
That expert lampshading.
We're not. Yeah. Whereas like a show like The Crown certainly departs from like historical accuracy, but I think is held more. It's a more serious tone. Yeah,
people are definitely. To a degree, whatever, even the stuff that's not accurate, they're projecting that into reality now because it is accurate enough.
Exactly, and that's like that's where like the question of the responsibility starts coming up.
Yeah,
and like because there's a part of me, it's like I mean, shit, I was learning things about Britain in the mid-century that I didn't know about. you know, I'm the sort of person who definitely will Google something afterward and then like go and try to find like what really went on there.
Yeah.
Because I know that I know that things get dramatized, but we learn, we get a lot of our history from our movies, and whether that you want to lament that or not, it's just the truth. And
I do think, and I think like you just made that point talking about The Crown and how that spurred interest in you to you know, like I saw, like you're reading about Margaret, you know, like, you know, like it spurred things. And it's like, I was also watching this video last night from this YouTube channel, Be Kind Rewind, and she was talking about the movie Judy and how there's certainly some inaccuracies between the film and her legacy or whatever. And then it's like, but at the same time, if that encourages people to seek out more, then like, it is still a net positive.
Yeah. And I mean, there's shows who are like, they have the space to kind of do more with that. Then there's films that like, you're trying to create an emotional arc. You're trying to create a journey. And I don't know. I don't really like biopics because they tend to fall into like one of two formats. But I think the Todd Haynes like film, can't remember.
I'm not there.
I'm not there.
Yeah, I'm not there. No, it's not. I'm not here. It's I'm not there.
Yeah, I get it mixed up with that Joaquin Phoenix thing. I'm still here. That's what it is.
I'm still here. I'm not there.
There's too many.
God damn it, Joaquin! You knew what you were doing.
He knew what he was doing.
That was an intentional association he's creating.
Most definitely. But but that film was great because instead of trying to create, okay, how do I make a film about Bob Dylan? Oh, well, Bob Dylan there are many Bob Dylans. There's many identities. So I'm going to cast 6 or 7 different people to play him in different parts of his life. And it was cool. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It had like again, self-aware flexibility to go that way and to make it more about an impression, about a way of life. And like, I mean, there were a lot of people in that. Like Richard Gere was in that, Cate Blanchett, and Heath Ledger was one of the Dylans at one. And it was trying to be faithful to not necessarily like the details, but the spirit. It's like that's kind of what you're trying to do.
It's not unlike like making a documentary, and you know, you can make something that's dry as fuck, or you can have a point of view. True. And then there's ethical, you know, grayness that comes with like the intentionality of why you're making the documentary to begin with.
That's a good point though, because there are a lot of times I see movies and I'm like, just make a documentary. I've had the privilege of working on some documentaries where we get sent like raw tapes of material from a long time ago, and I am the kind of nerd that's like, oh, I could watch this shit all day. Like, let's go make some popcorn. But not everyone's like that, and very few people get to do that. Like, I get that's not even typical for people. I mean, I don't even really get to do that. Like, you know, now I'm off topic. It's a treat.
No, but I get it. I totally. I think point made, Victoria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is I liked it. I did actually like it. I'm here for this. I'm enjoying it. I like seeing the Guest brothers. So
there you go.
That's my.
I would overall recommend this, although I don't know. It's a debatable rewatch.
I would never watch it again.
Yeah. I would never. You sung its praises, and you're like, I would never.
But I would never watch it again.
If I were gonna watch a Western, I would watch probably Tombstone.
Yeah, fair. I have some other Westerns I would watch before this for sure.
Or like, if I was more familiar with like more Western canon. I've seen very few Westerns, which is why I'm like, when is it like Tombstone?
I mean, no, it's fine. A lot of people have seen Tombstone. Tombstone's fun. It's a fun movie.
Fuck.
It's fun. No.
It's like either have fun or go that full like Eastwood. I'm the stoic man in the desert. Stink eye, pow. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny because like Unforgiven came out a few years after this one, and but there was a real dearth of this genre because in the 70s there was a real clapback, and rightfully so, to like sort of the white supremacist nature of Westerns, cowboys versus Indians, and all this, very casual racism, and it really, there was a strong kind of like, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do those stories.
Totally.
And there was a real backing away that happened for a bit there with Westerns. So Walter Hill is kind of credited, and perhaps starting with this movie, for getting that genre back and like really reviving it.
There's something definitely to be said about that cultural context, you know, with this film and like the importance of, I guess, having a little bit of that knowledge if you're watching this fresh or not, you know, just that and I have like a deepened appreciation for the type of story it is. It does have a bit of a not No Country for Old Men type of vibe, but I think that there's like I think there's a vibe of like what you were saying, how these are misfits.
Yeah.
Less so like there's romanticizing, but it's also about people who are they're band together, like they're band of brothers or whatever, because that's like the world is changing around them in a way that they can't fit into.
Yeah, there's like this morality and this honesty among thieves kind of thing, and that like one of the youngers gets killed, but it's the wrong younger. It's one who never robbed anybody or did anything, and so it kind of becomes this. You could have shot me, but you shot an innocent, and now I'm justified in coming after you. And then and the Pinkertons with that whole thing where they firebombed, that really did happen.
Yeah.
And really did like turn people's opinions like strongly in favor of these outlaws. I mean, you know, there's a reason Jesse James is like a folk hero to a lot of people, and we're still like, oh, and just a footnote, Robert Ford, the man who shot Jesse James, the coward Robert Ford, he after that actually participated in a stage show reenactment of shooting Jesse James. Like he traveled the country like as an actor playing himself in that drama.
Oh, wow.
Which is fucked.
Wow. Yeah, that's like...
Robert Ford had some problems, I think.
That's like, you're really like living up your own... Like he knew like the celebrity he was creating by doing it. He's like, this is like I'm making viral, I'm going to go viral, bam. That's how he did it.
He was like the Logan Paul, you know?
Yeah.
Like he's just
he's like, I'm going to go viral.
Oh, man. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
And... There's a great, I'm forgetting the name of it, of course. There's a movie where John Ireland, who's a great actor from like the 50s and 40s, but he plays Robert Ford in a movie that basically is all about that and that experience of like he kills Jesse James early in the movie, and the rest is really about his experience of like doing this stage show and falling into madness and having this, like he's in a bar at one point and some guy with a guitar who's like drinking shots of whiskey is like, oh, I'll sing this one, everyone loves this one. It's a song about how, and this is a song that really exists. It's all about, I'm trying to remember the lines. It's like Bob Ford, the coward that shot Mr. Howard and laid Jesse James in his grave. And Mr. Howard references that was the pseudonym Jesse James was living under. Was like, the point is that's like there's all kinds of lore out there about this, and it's it's actually a really interesting story in reality, and probably more interesting than this movie even really kind of makes it out, because it lost bits of that color. And
I think this just was like too kind of gray, and I honestly didn't even know who to care about or what to care about at a certain point. I'm like, well, there's these brothers, but then there's these brothers, but then there's these brothers. You know what? I like the whore.
I know. I think that's why I agree with you. When I actually think about like who got like a feeling from me, who did I care about in the story? Yeah, right. Belle Starr was the only one.
Honestly,
totally with you there.
Anyway,
all right. Well, you know, watch it or don't.
Sympathy for the whore. I just keep saying it because they kept saying it.
I mean, they really said it like whore.
Yeah, you're a whore.
Man, you know, I don't get the fascination with David Carradine. I'm just gonna say.
No, thank you. Okay, I actually don't find him attractive.
No,
I found him like gross in this movie.
He's gross. He's gross. And I, you know, the whole Kill Bill thing.
No, you know what? I do get it for Kill Bill in the sense that he has this weird cult leader vibe where you're kind of like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's been said about cult leaders. You're like, they're not attractive.
No,
like, they're gross in pictures. They're always ugly, weird people. But then like, they somehow have some pull.
Oh yeah.
Like he has that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I get that. Like, he's playing that well in Kill Bill, but in this, I was just like, man, like, you ain't good enough for her. Like,
yeah, really? He's like gross, and then she's all like.
I mean, I spent a lot of time staring at his face, like.
I don't see it.
What it
is he? Has he? I'm just not as familiar with his work other than having seen him in Kill Bill and now this.
I think that's a lot of it for me as well. I know he was in the 70s TV show Kung Fu, but
sure.
I don't know more.
Maybe like I don't know, like there are people that are attractive in different eras that
I guess.
I don't.
Yeah.
I'll never understand.
Like
that was
stocky was really big in the 40s.
like what?
Broad-chested, stocky dudes in the 40s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like John Garfield,
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess he's good looking. I don't know. You're like, I don't know who you're talking about.
My eyes just totally glazed
Sorry.
over.
No, I went to the movies last night with somebody, and they were like, "Who is that guy in the thing?" I'm like, "Oh, it was Sydney Greenstreet." And he's like, "How do you know this shit?" I'm like, I'm a nerd. Thank you, listeners.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Oh,
if this was a YouTube video.
Yeah, I know. I always use that language, but
we could start uploading clips to YouTube. We should be doing.
Actually, we do have episodes.
Oh shit!
Full episodes. We have a YouTube channel.
Oh.
Right now, it's not everything, but.
Oh man! All right,
cool. We're on Letterboxd, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and now we're on YouTube. Check out details in the show notes. Bye.
Bye.